Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to The Beating Edge with Money Plus. I want to start today with a question. When the doctor says the words, heart failure to you or to someone you love, what do you actually hear? For most people, those two words land like a door slamming shut, like something is over. I know, I sat in that chair too, but here's what I wish someone had told me on that day. Heart failure does not mean the heart has stopped. It means the heart is struggling, and there is an enormous difference between those two things. Today we are going to talk about what heart failure actually is, the two main types, what causes it, what the NHS can do about it, and more than anything, how to keep living with it in a way that still feels like yours. I want to introduce you to someone I've been thinking about while preparing this episode. His name is Gareth. He's 56 years old, a former site manager from Bradford in West Yorkshire, recently retired on medical grounds. He loves his allotment and watching the football with his son off a weekend. A few months ago, Gareth noticed he was getting breathless walking up to his allotment shed, something he'd done hundreds of times. His ankles were puffy by evening. He put it down to getting older, to doing too much, to everything except his heart. When his GP ran the blood test, the NT-proBNP we talked about in episode 8, the number was high enough to warrant an urgent echo. The echocardiogram showed that Gareth's left ventricle, the main pumping chamber, was working at about 30% of its normal capacity. His heart was still going, but it needed help. Gareth is not unusual. Here in the UK, almost 1 million people are living with heart failure right now. Around 200,000 new diagnoses are made every year. That is roughly one new diagnosis every 2 or 3 minutes. So if you're sitting with this diagnosis, or someone close to you is, you are not alone in this, not by a long way. Let me explain the two main types of heart failure, because understanding which one you have genuinely changes what happens next. Think of your heart as a pump. Its job is to squeeze blood out to the body and then relax to fill up again before the next squeeze. Heart failure happens when that cycle breaks down, either because the squeeze is too weak or because the muscle has become too stiff to fill properly. The most common type, and the one I had, is left-sided heart failure with reduced ejection fraction. The clinical shorthand is HFrEF. The left ventricle is the workhorse of the heart. It pumps blood out to the entire body. When it weakens, the ejection fraction, the percentage of blood it pushes out with each beat, falls below 40%. A healthy heart sits above 50 or 55%. When my ejection fraction was measured, mine was sitting at 15. That number changes your life. But the important thing Gareth's cardiologist told him, and that I want you to hear, is that it is not a fixed number. With the right treatment, it can improve. The second type is left-sided heart failure with preserved ejection fraction, HFpEF. Here, the muscle hasn't gone weak, it has gone stiff. The squeeze looks normal on paper, but the heart can't relax enough between beats to fill properly. More common in older people and in women, and historically harder to treat, though, as we'll come to, that is now changing. And then there is right-sided heart failure, which is usually a consequence of the left side struggling. Pressure builds in the lungs, the right ventricular starts to feel the strain, and fluid backs up into the legs, ankles, and sometimes the abdomen. That swelling has a name and a cause, and it can be managed. As for causes, the most common in the UK is coronary artery disease, clogged arteries reducing blood supply to the heart muscle. High blood pressure comes second, forcing the heart to work harder for years until the muscle gives out. Others include cardiomyopathy, valve disease, heart attacks, diabetes, and obesity. We're not here to assign blame, we're here for what comes next. Oh, and someone once told me you can get heart failure from a broken heart. I can neither confirm nor deny this from personal experience. Only joking. Now let us talk about treatment because this is where I want you to pay attention. The standard treatment for HFrEF has genuinely transformed over the past decade. NICE, which is the body that sets clinical guidelines in England and Wales, recommends what specialists now call quadruple therapy, 4 classes of medication working together, an ACE inhibitor or ARB to reduce the strain on the heart, a beta blocker to slow and steady the heart rate, reduce arrhythmia risk, and improve survival, an MRA, a mineralocorticoid receptor antagonist, which sounds alarming, but is essentially a potassium-sparing water tablet that also protects the heart muscle, and more recently, an SGLT2 inhibitor, a drug originally developed for type 2 diabetes that has turned out to have remarkable benefits for the failing heart, reducing hospitalization and improving quality of life. For people with HFpEF, the picture was less clear for a long time, but systematic review evidence now supports SGLT2 inhibitors as beneficial across the full range of ejection fractions, which is a genuine step forward. For some people, medication is not enough on its own. When the ejection fraction drops below 35% and the heart is showing signs of dangerous rhythm problems, your consultant may recommend an ICD, an implantable cardioverter defibrillator. I had one. It sits under the skin, just below the collarbone, and if the heart ever goes into a life-threatening rhythm, it delivers a shock to reset it. It saved my life more than once, alhamdulillah. There is also CRT, cardiac resynchronization therapy, which uses a pacemaker to coordinate the 2 sides of the heart when they are working out of sync. And then, at the most severe end, there is the LVAD, the left ventricular assist device, a mechanical pump implanted alongside the heart to take over some of the work. For some patients, this is a bridge to transplant. For others, it is a longer-term solution and transplant. In the UK, around 200 heart transplants take place every year. Every single one of those is possible because a family, in an unimaginable moment of loss, chose to give another person a future. I am here, literally my heart is beating as I record this, because of one of those families. I think about them every day. Here is something I want to address head on, because I know many of you will have read the statistics about heart failure and felt the floor drop. The figure that gets quoted, the one that says around 50% of people with heart failure do not survive 5 years, belongs to an older era of treatment. It is not a lie, but it is not the whole story. The medicines we now use, the ones I just described, particularly the SGLT2 inhibitors and the newer ARNE drugs, were not widely available even 10 years ago. Real-world data from patients on modern quadruple therapy shows ejection fractions improving, hospitalization rates coming down, and quality of life measurably better. Modern treatment changes that picture, not perfectly, not for everyone, but meaningfully, and that deserves to be said out loud. What helps equally, and the evidence is clear on this, is what happens outside the clinic. A UK qualitative study of women newly diagnosed with heart failure found that social support, sleep, and simply being able to talk to someone who understood made a measurable difference to quality of life, and depression and anxiety affect somewhere between a quarter and nearly half of people with heart failure in the first year after diagnosis. That is not weakness. That is a human response to an enormous thing. The NHS HF nurse service exists partly for this reason. And if you are struggling emotionally, please speak to your HF nurse or your GP. The BHF also runs a heart helpline. Details are on the BHF website at baf.org.uk. I have been in that dark place. There were stretches when I sat in the hemodialysis chair, 4 sessions a week, each one 4 hours. The machine cleaning my blood while my failing heart did what it could. And I genuinely did not know what I was still fighting for. I do not say that to frighten you. I say it because if you are there right now, I want you to know that I understand. And I came through it. I had a few people around me who lifted me up during that time, and I thank them today, sincerely, from the bottom of this borrowed heart, for being there, for making me see life again, and for those who weren't there but prayed for me in silence. I thank them too, because without those people and without God's blessing, I do not think I would have seen life again. So here is what I want to leave you with, practically today. 1. If you have been diagnosed or someone you love has been, write down the ejection fraction percentage from the echo report. Ask your consultant or HF nurse what category that puts you in. Understanding whether you have HFrEF or HFpEF changes which treatments are most relevant. 2. Weigh yourself every morning before breakfast. If your weight goes up by 2 kilograms or more over 2 or 3 days, call your HF nurse. That is fluid building up. It is manageable if you catch it early. 3. Ask your GP or consultant whether you are on the full 4-drug regimen, ACE inhibitor or ARNI beta blocker, MRA, SGLT2 inhibitor, or whether there are steps still to take, not as a challenge, as a conversation. These are your questions to ask. 4. If exercise feels impossible right now, tell your HF nurse there is supervised cardiac rehabilitation available through the NHS, and the evidence shows that combining strength work with aerobic exercise improves how you feel and how your heart functions over time. You do not have to start where you imagine you ought to be. You start where you are. 5. Tell someone, one person, your partner, your son or daughter, a close friend, a sibling, whoever is your person, not to burden them, because heart failure managed alone is harder than it needs to be. The research says so, my experience says so, and most of all, hold on, not with your teeth, with your faith, your people, your reasons. The heart that is struggling is still the heart that loves, that matters. Gareth, the man from Bradford, with his allotment and his football, is 6 months into treatment now. His ejection fraction has come up from 30% to 42%. He still gets breathless climbing the hill, but he made it up to his shed last weekend and planted his first row of runner beans of the season. That is not nothing, that is everything. If this episode gave you something, a word to take to your next appointment, a moment of recognition, a reason to call someone you've been putting off calling, then please share it with one person who might need it. A link costs you nothing. It might mean the world to them. You can find The Beating Edge with Manny Plus on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. If you have a moment, a review on Apple Podcasts helps this community grow and reach people who are sitting in exactly the chair you once sat in. And if today's conversation touched something difficult, please do not sit with it alone. The British Heart Foundation has a heart helpline. Visit bhh.org.uk for details. Your NHS HF nurse is there too. Those conversations are why those services exist. This has been The Beating Edge with Money Plus. I'm Money. Thank you genuinely for listening and for keeping your heart open. Allahumma anta al-shafi wa anta al-mu'afi wa la shifa'a illa shifa'uk. O Allah, you are the healer, you are the one who grants wellness, and there is no healing except your healing. Grant shifa to everyone who heard these words today and is fighting their own quiet battle. Ameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.